Hey everybody, it's Mike Sullivan with Born to Shine. Today we have an awesome guest. His name is Brad Mason, and he is a superintendent in beautiful Whittier, California. And Brad, thanks for making some time for us
My
today.
pleasure. My pleasure.
So, what was your journey like to become the superintendent? Because that's a really high position with a lot of people, staff and parents looking up to you for your leadership and your guidance. What was your journey like?
Yeah, I think no one ever wakes up as a little child and says, I really want to be a superintendent. It's kind of the equivalent of, kind of like no one wakes up and thinks, really one day I want to be a proctologist. And
Mm,
so it's something you just kind of find your way into. And I think for me, it started back kind of the significant role some educators played in my life.
mm,
Growing up, my kind of pain point or challenge point was diagnosed late in elementary school with a back problem and so forth, and ended
mm,
up in a back brace through sixth grade on into my freshman year of high school. So as I transitioned into middle school, it was back in the enlightened times where boys and girls were separated for PE. And if you were an adaptive PE, and I was because of my back brace, they just thought, these are frail people that, they need to play with the girls. I
mm,
was an athlete. That was my identity. It's who I was. And it was all kind of taken away. And I was kind of one of the cool kids in elementary school because I was athletic and I was these things, but I didn't really get to show who I was, at least in my mind, at the middle school. And so I kind of became this invisible kid. And that happened for a while. Um, and then as I got into high school, back brace comes off and kind of roaring back into sports and played in high school and college. And you're just thinking, kind of, it was a horrible time, except for little did I know then that one day I would be a middle school principal. And if you think of the story of, Ebenezer Scrooge, the real gotcha point is when he was able to look back at Christmas past, kind of where he currently was and what the future looked like. And I really got a little bit of a gift wrapped in that back brace because I was a cool kid, and in my mind, I would have been that kid throughout the trajectory of my career. But for about a 3 year stint, I kind of got to understand how the other half lived. And so when I got to the role of, teacher and then ultimately the principal of a middle school, I realized that our campus was filled with these invisible kids, and they come with their stories, and it could be because of the label of the class they're in. It could be self-inflicted. It could be projected from the outside, but they were all around. And one of the things I challenged all of the staff, I don't care if it was the principal secretary, the head custodian, or the bus aide, everybody needs to identify two invisible kids, get to know their name, get to know their heartbeat, get to know what matters to them, and engage them every single day. And one of the questions from the staff was, well, what's an invisible kid? Well, it can be defined fairly easily. When you're listing the name of the 10 kids and you always forget who that 10th kid was, that's an invisible kid. The kid that stays around at the end of class during passing periods, fiddling with their backpack, just trying to waste time so they don't have to stand outside alone while everybody else has got someone to talk with. That's an invisible kid, a kid that tries to make up questions to talk with you just to get some of your attention. That's an invisible kid. Kids sitting by themselves at lunch, and pretty soon you times 100 staff members by two, and nobody can replicate. Everybody's got to have somebody. It's just we created just a culture of just including everybody. Everybody mattered because we purposefully set out to make a connection with those kids. And then it just led to other opportunities. And I feel like I've been in the educational witness protection program because I've had so many different jobs along the way. And then the superintendent, you just have the opportunity to help kind of cast and create a culture of caring and belonging and nurturing and figuring out kind of that role of a shepherd. Where's the lost lamb at?
mm.
It doesn't matter that the 99 can get back to the pen quickly. Where's the one that we really need to target and get after and figure out what that child needs from us? And our job is to get them to kind of the launching pad, which is graduation, and kind of launch them successfully into the rest of their lives. And there's a lot of work that goes into that, both academically as well as socially, emotionally, and in every other way. So you'll find that this is going to go much quicker if you ask me yes and no questions because I got a story for everybody.
Now, I love it, Brad. I love that. I love your heart for your kids. I love the title of Invisible Kids. I was one of those invisible kids, and it was a challenge eating alone at lunch. And so it would have been so cool to grow up at your school and have a teacher say, "Hey, how you doing, Michael? You mind if I have lunch with Ed?" And I'm like, "This is the coolest school ever."
Yeah.
So that's awesome. And yeah, the one lost sheep, being a shepherd, you're definitely doing that, and that's awesome. And well, you kind of answered the next question, Brad. You know, when you were K-12, what was it that you struggled with? And I think it was sixth grade through your freshman year in high school with the back injury. And I guess maybe it would lead into the next question of what would you like to see more of for 2025 for your students as far as their emotional health or mental health? What are some things in a perfect world you'd love to see more
Yeah,
of?
I think as long as we as adults have to keep doing things to, with, and for students to try to help, I really want to create cultures on a campus where there's collective caring
Mm,
amongst each other, just, taking care of the flock from inside the flock
mm,
and kids learning to just empathetically see kids beyond beyond the scope of their inward focus or me and my phone or me and my three friends. There's just a world hurting out there. And if we just collectively cared better for the people in our tribe, which can be our neighborhood, it can be our church group, it could be our classmates, it could be our whatever. But if we just did a better job of caring for one another, some of these other things would just kind of wouldn't be fed. The stories that we tell ourselves when we're eating by ourselves at lunch that I must not measure up, I must not be good enough, I must not. And people just kind of, it just so quickly just vaporizes when somebody just does a kindness. And so just building that. And it's not, it I've got six little grandbabies, two fives, two threes, and two ones. And again, there's this super egocentric, I'm hungry, I'm poopy, I'm thisy, I'm thaty, and so fix me. But then there's this window of time where kids are very much observing the world around them and
mm,
they're interested if you're hurt and do you need a band-aid or you whatever. But then it quickly kind of flashes back to, what about me and my wants and my toy? And it's really ingraining it in kids young to just how can we leave the world better off than we found it? And just modeling that and preaching that and demonstrating that, but not because as a teacher you need to solve every last thing, but you need to build a culture in your classroom. We need to be culture in our grade levels and in our schools of just building good people. And it starts with making sure everybody knows that they matter.
yeah, 100%. You matter, you have value, and you are important. Whoever's watching us right now, I couldn't agree more with Brad. You matter, you have value, and you are important. And as Pastor Rick Warren always says, the world's waiting for you because you have a gift that no one else has. Everyone has a unique gift, right? You have one, Brad. I have one that God gave us, and you, whoever are watching, you have a special gift, and the world is waiting for you to share it with them,
Yeah.
right? Like all your
Kind of the
students.
parable of the talents, and some people feel like, I've only got one. I'm staring at people with three and five and this and
Mm,
that. The
mm,
reality is that it's kind of the kernel of corn in your hand. A crop can't grow unless you plant that baby in the ground. And so sometimes we hang on to it due to well, do they really need my whatever it is? And the
mm,
answer is just put it out into the world and it
mhm.
will return to you greatly, but it will do nothing for you in the palm of your hand.
Amen to that. And you know, if there's anything on your heart, Brad, that if another superintendent is watching, or a teacher, or a parent, or even a student, what's on your heart? What kind of words of edification or encouragement would you like to share with them?
Yeah, I think the best legacy that we can leave, and I'm much closer to the end of my career than I am the beginning. And so, b building caring structures and systems with just good people, hire good people,
Mm,
and they can get the skills. I can't train someone to become a good person.
mm,
That's just a really hard one to do. I
mm-hmm.
find competence all throughout organizations and so forth, but um, it just the legacy you leave is we've read a book or in the process of reading a book called Turn the Ship Around. It's about this dysfunctional Navy captain or a Navy captain taking over a very dysfunctional nuclear submarine.
Mm,
And his philosophy was first, I've got to become expert on everything because I need to be kind of the Wizard of Oz, the human, magic 8 ball. You shake me and I have the answer to everything. And the reality is that the best he could do for that submarine is equip people with the clarity and the competence to do that work. And so we cast very clear visions, and then we equip people to go do the work. And the work is not just test scores, test scores, test scores. We've got this incubator called school that we're going to deliver kids out into an adult world, and they need to be fully functioning adults as they kind of get there. And again, knowing that they matter, knowing that they have those character components to not just be able to take care of themselves, but take care of others. It's an awesome call, but man, it's a good job to come to.
That's beautiful. Brad Mason, thank you so much, brother, for
Yeah,
sharing your heart, sharing your wisdom and your experience. And just thank you so much for making time for us today.
yeah, my pleasure.
Okay, so here's Brad Mason's two books that he wrote for his six beautiful grandchildren, right?
Yes, yeah. So yeah, we've got Charlie Chaloosy is often quite choosy. The first one in the series about a picky little guy that thinks he doesn't like much other than what he knows
Mm,
until he starts trying some things, and it's amazing how his kind of world opens up. And then the same little guy, Charlie Chaloosy, refuses to snooze, and the boy has it out with his mom and does not want to take a nap until he realizes that the dreams that he loves and the adventures that he goes on only happens when he sleeps. So he makes peace. I'm gonna spoiler alert gonna let you know that he makes peace with nap times by the end. It turns out mom's pretty smart after all, so he gets rest, he gets energy, he's able to go on these wonderful adventures in his mind while he sleeps. So anyway, just a gift to young kids, just kind of universal themes. And we're in a world that is just trying to steal the innocence of our
mm,
kids again and again, and get to adulthood as a fast adult themes, adult this, adult that. We're struggling as an adult society to kind of figure out which way is up, and introducing kids too early to the chaos of
mm,
adulthood.
mm.
There is no rewind button, and so I am such a firm believer in just kind of inculcating our kids and just the universal kid themes, just growing confidence, and keep them young as long as you can.
Yeah, love it. Thank you,
Yeah.
Brad. Really
Yeah, my
appreciate that.
pleasure. My pleasure.